Hello everyone, this is the first in a series of videos that I'm going to do about surviving the summer holidays and holiday vacations for parents and autistic individuals. So begin with avoiding holiday havoc for autistic children. To begin with, just for those of you who don't know me, I'm going to burst out into song. School's out for summer. So sang Alice Cooper in 1972. 4 words that strike fear in many parents' ears. How are we going to keep our children occupied and entertained for 6 whole weeks? How will we survive? If this rings true for you, spare a thought for the parents of many autistic children for whom this can be an even more stressful experience. In the UK, we are only a couple of weeks away, or less, from that period in which many parents of autistic children most dread, the 6-week summer school break. This is the time when schedule and routine are thrown to the wind to be replaced with an overabundance of choice and uncertainty. I'm not just talking about this British weather. For some autistic children, including myself, yes, I was a child once when I was younger, the school environment can be an unforgiving and threatening place. However, despite its many horrors, school life does provide some routine and structure, even if it's not autism specific, and it's rarely, I'd say probably never, person-centred. Many neurotypical children approach the summer holidays with excitement and anticipation around all the fun things they're going to get up to away from the rigid monotony of school. For these children, school holidays are an escapist and joy-filled time, with weeks of lions, seeing friends and visiting new places. While some parents might be worried about how on earth they're going to entertain their little darlings for a mammoth 6 weeks, few will miss the stress of the school run or the fight to encourage their little darlings to get out of bed, get themselves and their offspring ready every morning. However, for autistic children and their parents, the approach to the school holidays can be met with real dread and extreme anxiety. Most autistic children benefit greatly from routine and structure in their day. The uncertainty and anxiety around what is going to happen next, who they're going to see, and what time they will be performing certain activities can be greatly reduced by the rigid structure of the school day, despite the many sensory and social difficulties that the environment places upon them. Most weeks, lesson times, lunch times and play times rarely differ day to day during the school term, or lesson schedules week to week. This expectant certainty helps make school more tolerable than the uncertainty of term breaks and holidays. The 6-week break can feel for some too massive a change in routine unless handled sensitively by autism-specific individual strategic planning. However, it needn't all be doom and gloom. There are many things that can be done to help autistic children and their parents and carers to cope with the transition from school to summer break and assist them to have a less stressful time during the 6-week school hiatus. The word autism obviously begins with the letters A and U. Each child is always unique. So what did then? Autistic individuals are not all like Rain Man, Sheldon Cooper from the Big Bang Theory, or a cross between Hello, I'm Mr. Bean and Mr. Spark. Every autistic child is different. Consequently, what might work brilliantly for one child may be disastrous for another. Therefore, before embarking on any strategies to survive the school holidays, a person-centred approach looking at understanding each autistic child's unique needs, sensitivities, strengths, likes and dislikes must always be the starting point. However, for many autistic children, some of these following tips can be useful starting points to begin with. Firstly, keep a visual holiday calendar or timetable. By sitting down with an autistic child and planning their week together, the parent can help that child know what is coming up for them and prepare them for any planned changes through a structured schedule that may reduce anxiety around changes of routine. Turning this into a visual timetable for each week can be a really useful tool for the child to use on their own to remind them of their schedule that day or on a particular week. It is essential, however, that alternative plans are also included on any schedule to allow for unpredictable changes such as inclement weather, especially in the UK. For example, if you know that every Tuesday of the summer break, Granny Smith will be providing childcare whilst Mum's at work, this could be scheduled in every week with a picture of Granny on a Tuesday, what time she will be picking little Jimmy up, dropping him off, and what activities they would be doing together that week. Point 2. Use the internet to show them places you'll be visiting. The internet can be a very useful tool. Obviously, we're using it right now. It can be used to source places of interest, working out travelling times and planned stops en route for that all-important convenience break if needed. Some photos of the final destination, and to prepay tickets and inquire about autism, stroke, disability provision, such as passes to avoid queuing, etc. All of these measures can help to reduce anxiety. Most websites will also offer pictures of the various facilities and activities that are available, and this can help make it seem much more familiar for the autistic child when they arrive, therefore reducing their anxiety. I will be looking at planning summer holiday vacations in future posts for both parents and carers and for autistic adults too, so watch this space. Point 3. Use alarms, timers or traffic lights to aid with the transition. By I mean traffic lights, I don't literally mean the traffic lights you see down the street, but the same principle. You can get this, look out, it's about 12 inches tall and it has the red, amber, green, and when it goes to green you can start an activity, and obviously when it gets to red it's the end of the activity, but towards the end of the activity it'll flash amber to say another 5 minutes or so before this activity ends and you need to move on to something else. It's a great way for getting the child particularly off a computer or TV screen, because they see that visual prompt and then you don't have to literally tell them, right, dinner's ready. You've got that, you can give them that 5-10 minute break beforehand so that they can finish what they're doing, they can prepare themselves, they can save their work if they didn't work on the computer, they can pause their video or whatever, maybe go back to it later. So they're not feeling so anxious about being removed from that activity they enjoy doing. So many autistic children struggle with the concept of time or transitioning from one thing to another. If your child struggles with this, it can be very useful to use an alarm or timer, like I just mentioned, to help them know when it's time to finish an activity. For some children, a simple 5 or 10 minute warning using outstretched palms may be sufficient as a visual countdown. For example, 10 minutes and then that activity finishes, and then 5 minutes, so they're getting prepared for the end of that activity, and you're not literally just coming up to them at the last minute and saying, oh, you've got to put your coat on now, you're going out shopping or whatever, which instantly causes a meltdown. You're giving that child time to process the change before it happens. So this pre-warning provides that processing time for the autistic child to prepare for that transition, either to another room, like for lunch or meal or something, another venue or another activity. And most children, even those profoundly learning disabled as well as autistic, will learn fairly quickly to respond to these simple prompts and react accordingly. Another point we could use, social stories. Social stories, unfortunately it's a trademark, so if I was to write this down I'd have to put the TM next to it, were developed by an American lady called Carol Gray as ways to help people with autism develop greater social understanding. They are short descriptions of a particular event or activity split into a series of no more than half a dozen sentences, which include specific information
about what might happen and an appropriate social response. Sometimes I'm not even sentences, that can be just a visual prompt for each stage. You can make one yourself quite easily about a particular event or a situation that's coming up, or you can find them fairly easy online, and they should aim to offer positive and clear reassurance about a situation in a way accessible to the age of your child. Social stories, trademark, can also be used to help your child to manage their own anxieties and challenging behaviours. For example, rather than tell a child off for being angry, because all of us at some time in our life get angry. I certainly do, and I'm sure I know I'm not alone in that. So what you're basically trying to do, say to a child, it is okay to feel angry, but it's not okay to hurt another person or to damage something. So again, you're giving that child some responsibility for their own behaviour, rather than simply using a strategy such as ABA, of modifying that behaviour and making, in effect, trying to make that child less autistic. You're enabling that child to learn to control and regulate their emotions, regulate their own behaviour. So in other words, you're empowering the child rather than dictating to the child. So particularly with behaviour, it can be very, very useful. And again, even in this context we're talking here, summer holidays can be very, very useful for those times when they're feeling really anxious. It's like, for instance, if you've got to wait for something, give them strategies to wait if they're waiting at an airport or waiting for the bus or train to take them out for the day, things like that. So these strategies can be very, very useful tools. So again, I'll be covering social stories in a future blog or future video. But for further information on writing social stories, feel free to leave a comment below or message me, or you can check out Carol's website, which is carolgraysocialstories.com. Another way to help a child survive the summer holidays is try to maintain one routine every day. Whilst a strict routine may not be entirely desirable, or indeed, I've lost my reading space there, or indeed practical for every parent or child during the long summer break, it can be quite beneficial to try to keep at least one routine every day, if that is at all possible. For example, this could be evening meal time or a bedtime routine. This can help prepare your child for the next day and help them to take stock on the current day, which makes the next day less difficult to handle. Hello, Jay. My friend Jay, they're just messaging me. So to be aware of sensory needs is a very, very big important point to look at. And again, it's something I should cover more as a full topic at a later date. Schools aren't the only crowded or noisy sensory environments. As you all know, particularly this hot weather, I know it's not quite schools breaking up yet, it's going to be absolutely manic at the beach if we were to go to the beach tomorrow, or if you've been there today. Summer is even worse, summer holidays. You've got literally millions of children and their parents away from school or work, make any summer activity more likely to be a sensory nightmare for your autistic child. So on a hot summer's day, much like today in July and August, coastal destinations will be particularly crowded and noisy places. Whilst the beach, swimming pools and other seaside attractions can be great fun for most people, these can be a sensory nightmare. Crowds, hot sand, rocky beaches, blistering sun, or our climate, torrential downpours, sunscreen, the sights and sounds of the amusement arcades or fun fairs, smells from fish and chip shops, smells from wet sand, the cries of the seagulls, all these sort of things can create a huge assault on the senses of an autistic child. For example, beach sand. We've all been on the beach. It's not a very comfortable position you get to be in. You get grit and sand between all your toes. And if it's a hot day like today, it's going to be really, really hot. It's going to burn your feet. Because at the end of the day, sand is used to make glass. And what's glass like when it's really, really hot? The heat comes through the through that glass and makes a room hotter, makes a room like a greenhouse. It's the same effect on a beach. The sand reflects that heat back to you, and if you're not careful, you end up getting sunburnt soles of your feet. Very, very uncomfortable place to be in. And of course, a lot of British beaches as well are quite pebbly and shingly, and that's another thing. You're getting ow, ow, ow. We've all done that on the way to the sea. And of course, the British British Sea, whether it's the Channel or North Sea, is notoriously cold. So you do that first toe in the water, and it's freezing. It freezes your feet. It's really, really painful. So you definitely put your feet in and then rush back out because of that experience. So, and again, for a sensory child, this can be literally, as well as being uncomfortable, like it would be for most people, it could be more than that, can actually be physically painful. So again, bear that in mind. So a good trip here to avoid that sort of issue with feet being burnt on or uncomfortable on the hot sand or pebbles or the cold of the water, wear Crocs. You know, they're waterproof, so you're not getting the sand underneath the feet, but they still get that sensation of having the sea or the sea washing around their feet. Very useful thing. Excuse me. Similarly, the sensation of thick, cold, gunky sunscreen, along with having your skin touch, if you're hypersensitive, very sensitive to touch, can present a sensory issue. A spray sunscreen applied by the child himself or herself may be a preferred option. So once again, every child is different, so sensory needs will be very specific to each individual. Now this is just a brief outline of the sort of strategies you can use to survive some of the summer holidays. Obviously coming up, as I've already mentioned, I'll be doing presentations more about going away on a vacation for the autistic child, how the parent can help that child, and also for an autistic individual to make that journey and that stay at the hotel or holiday complex that bit more bearable and much more pleasant. So finally, for parents, when it comes to this great 6-week fun fest that is the summer school holidays, relax. I know it's easier said than done. God, we've all been there. It can seem like an eternity. Although, and particularly in Britain, where we often get really, really bad weather. But even in this heat, in the hot weather, can still be very, very difficult. But at the end of the day, all that any parent can do, whether the children are autistic or not, is do your best. You are no exception. As I've mentioned right at the beginning, the feelings that you have during the summer, surviving the summer holidays, as a parent of an autistic child, are the same as any other parent. It's just it's possibly more intensified because of the specific needs and difficulties of your child. So, surviving the summer holidays for both parent and autistic child will inevitably involve some form of trial and error. There will be some challenging behaviours at times from both the child and, to be honest, the parent. We all get hot and bothered, we all get ratty, we all get tired, particularly if you're an autistic child that doesn't sleep, and in this sort of heat like we've got at the moment, it can be a big, great issue. So, as the late American folk country singer John Denver wrote, some days are diamonds, some days are stone. Basically saying that some days are better than others, and you have to take that sort of wheat with the chaff in effect. But hopefully some of the tips I've presented in the last few minutes, and those later to come when I talk about summer vacations over the next few days, could be useful in helping you and your autistic child thrive, or at the very least survive the school holidays. Life has a way of throwing a spanner in the works, or, as you Americans may call it, a curveball. And however well you plan or schedule, the best laid plans of mice and men, bit of John Steinbeck there, may go awry. So be kind to yourself. You're doing great. Every parent views the summer break from school with a combination of hope, maybe a little bit of optimism thrown in there, and dread. Parents of autistic children may face extra hurdles, but many other parents face similar hurdles in order to keep little Jimmy happy and occupied for 6 long weeks. So no amount of planning, preparation or scheduling can prepare you for every eventuality. All you can do, and all anyone can do, is try your best and hope it will all work out okay. So relax, believe in yourself and enjoy the summer. Any comments, welcome below, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.